Everybody. Today I'm going to be reviewing Game of the States. The original game came out in 1940 for Milton Bradley, and it is for 2 to 4 players. Now, Game of the States is a kid's game, and the object of this game is you're going to be trying to make the most amount of money buying and selling goods. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be traveling all around the country collecting goods and trying to sell goods. There's a couple little hindrances that can kind of trip you up, though. You can end up running out of gas, people can end up stealing your goods, things of that nature. So, let's show you Game of the States. Okay, everybody, let's go ahead and show you the components. Right here you have your game board, and this is a map of the United States, quite obviously, and this is where you're going to be traveling around buying and selling goods and transporting them. Right here you have your trucks, and there's 4 different colors, as you can see, and this is the piece you're going to be using to drive with. And right here you have these product discs. In the beginning of the game, you're going to be drawing those cards over there, and they're going to tell you where you're going to be placing these discs. And your opponents are going to be trying to pick these discs up and buy them from you and then sell them back at another place. Right over here you have your good spot over here, and anytime you land on an opponent's space to pick up one of his items, he's going to basically pick an item that is synonymous with that state to sell you. And so, for example, if you went to Texas, he's got a sheep, a cow, oil, computer, things of that nature, so he would pick one of those items off of this list. And then, of course, right here you have your spinner. You're going to spin this, and this is going to tell you how many spaces that you're going to be able to move. You also have spaces that say flat tire, don't move, breakdown, lose turn, and then out of gas, lose turn. And I'll explain something that happens to you here in just a little bit. Right here, this is the spinner that is going to tell how much you're going to be paying your opponent and whenever you buy or sell the goods. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about that as the game progresses. Right here are your cards. You're going to be drawing 4 of these cards in the very beginning of the game, and these basically represent all the different states, and it has a little bit of information on there. And there's actually a little bit of a trivial variant in this game. If you wanted to go with it, you could just simply ask somebody what the capital of Indiana is, and if they guess right, then they'll get something. If they guess wrong, then they don't. But I'm not going to be talking about that. But anyway, all 50 states are on here. In the beginning, you're going to deal out 4 cards to everybody, and those people are going to put their products on the 4 states that they receive. And of course, right here you have your money. Everybody is going to be starting off with $5,000. And again, the object of the game is to try to be the player with the most money. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to deal out these cards and then place all these markers on the different states that they draw, and then we will continue. Okay, so I went ahead and drew the 4 cards, and I placed all the discs in the cards that I dealt. And then you will draw another card, and that card will tell you where you are going to start. Okay, so now what you're going to do after you've done all this is everybody's going to draw a card, and that is going to tell you what their destination is. So I drew a card, and I drew Maine for red. So that is where I'm going to be heading. So now what's going to happen is, let's say I'm red. Red is going to go ahead and spin the spinner over here, and he is going to move that amount. So red has moved 3, so he can go ahead and move 3. Now, red can land on Nevada and Arizona. He does not have to pick up these things by exact count. So let's just say, as for red, I went ahead and went and picked this up. And what happens now is my opponent is going to go ahead and choose one of these items to sell. So let's just go ahead and say my opponent chooses cattle. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and spin this, and this is how much money that I'm going to offer him. So let's say I spin that, and I have spun $300. Now, my opponent can go ahead and accept that $300, or he can say, you know what, that's not enough. I want you to spin the wheel again. And I'd say I spin the wheel again, and now it's $400. Now, my opponent is going to have to accept the second spin no matter what. So what's going to happen in this case is I'm going to go ahead and buy this item for $400, and I will go ahead and continue on to my destination, which again is Maine. I can only pick up one item at a time. Now, a couple of things. One thing is if you end up spinning one of these things that's going to require a car to stop, you're going to lose your product disc. So let's say, for example, blue was here and he spun this. He's going to have to go ahead and take his product disc out. Okay, now after that happens, one of 3 things is going to happen. If another player with an empty trunk, that's not the original owner of the disc, reaches the state that you're in, he can actually take the disc and the destination card and pay you just $100. Now, the new buyer would just complete the original delivery and sell the product in the usual manner. I'll talk about selling in a little bit. Now, if the owner of the disc reaches the state that you're in, meaning like green were to reach, then what would happen was he would take the disc, pay the $100, and then he would just place the disc off the board on the appropriate space on whatever he chose on here, and he would not have to buy it back. And the other thing that will happen is if nobody reaches it before your next turn, you'll just simply put the disc back in and proceed as normal. So let's say I end up driving and driving and driving, and he ends up making it all the way to Maine. So now what's going to happen is he is going to try to sell the disc back to my opponent. So now my opponent is going to go ahead and spin the disc here. And let's say my opponent spends $200. Now I can go ahead and say, I think you should spend it again. Let's say he spins it again. And this time he has spun $900. So now my opponent who is the owner of the disc is going to have to pay me the $900, and then he will go ahead and take this disc and place it here on the cattle spot which was the product that I sold. Now the game is going to end once all of these discs are placed on here. So then what's going to happen after that is the red player is going to draw another product card or another state card to show where his next destination is. In this case, it's going to be Tennessee. So he's already has done, this guy has already done Maine, so now he's going to be heading to Tennessee next. And again, he's going to go ahead and try to pick up a product on his way over there so he can sell it. Now again, you can only pick up one at a time. If everybody else's discs has been placed on this board except for yours, you can actually go ahead and start transporting your own discs. So what that means is, let's just say green has all of his discs on there, but nobody else does. You can go ahead and pick your own discs up. You would just simply proceed to a state that contains one of the discs and place it in the truck, and then you would draw a card. And then on your next turn, you would go ahead and begin moving to that state that's shown on the card, and when you reach it, everybody is going to give you $200 as a special bonus for transporting your own product, which is rather cool. So anyway, what's going to happen is you're going to be going from one state to the other, finding where your destination is, buying the disc, selling the disc back, putting them on this little thing over here. And the winner of the game is going to be the one that ends up with the most amount of money by the time all of these discs are placed back onto this board. So my final thoughts on Game of the States. Well, this game has been around for a long time, and there have been several reprints of this game. I think that this would be a really good game for kids. It's been around for that long, so that's why I think that. For adults, probably not so much. Now, I've only played this game with my wife with a 2-player game, so it might actually be better with a 4-player game because you will have actually more of a chance to steal things, and it might be a little bit more of a challenge. With a 2-player game, not so much, because a lot of times you're going to probably be on the other side of the country from where your opponent is, and if he's out of gas, there really isn't much of a point driving all the way over there trying to take his stuff. So when you play a 2-player, it's pretty straightforward. There's not much of a challenge that goes on with it. Now, with a 4-player game, that might change up, but for 2 players, not so much. So if you have any kids, I would definitely recommend checking this game out. Again, it's been out for a very long time, and it seems to be a game that has some longevity to it. But my experience with it's been kind of like a little bit below average for me. But then again, it is a kid's game, so you know it may not be as meant for adults. Now, having said that, there are some kids games that I have played that are a lot of fun. Ghost being one of them. That's typically a kid's game. The Bionic Woman's another one that actually is a pretty good game, even though it's typically a kid's game. In my opinion, this game doesn't quite reach that level, but it probably does have some potential if you threw in some house rules and changed up the rules a little bit. So guys, that's my review of Game of the States. I hope you all have a great day. Keep on gaming.